You have to surrender, Ferrus. There is no escape.
Maybe not, traitor, but only dishonor holds any terror for me.
Welcome to Fightmaster, the show where we analyze the greatest warriors in the galaxy and break down the most iconic duels. My name is Precognition, and today we're looking at a clash of brothers as the galaxy changed forever around them. A duel at the very start of the Horus Heresy. We are of course looking at the fatal battle between Fulgrim, the Phoenician, Primarch of the Emperor's Children, and Ferrus Manus, the Gorgon, Primarch of the Iron Hands. Beyond mortal men, beyond even Astartes and Custodes, stand the Primarchs, second only to the Emperor himself. This would be the first time two of the demigods had ever fought with intent to kill. But what makes this a fascinating match isn't the superhuman abilities of the combatants. What's fascinating about this duel is that while the Primarchs both employ vastly different styles, their philosophy on combat is quite similar. Both Primarchs prioritize perfection of technique, believing that if they can consistently waste no movement, their opponent will eventually make some fatal error or use some less polished technique they can take advantage of. Of course, the perfectly executed techniques they perform and what they consider wasted movement are almost night and day. On top of that, they have some very interesting weapon choices in this particular clash. Now, before I go on, I want to be clear. When I talk about things like style, speed, strength, etc., I'm referring to within the ranks of the Primarchs, or creatures comparable to them. Against most enemies, a Primarch is a giant Superman, slaughtering their foes several at a time, with little need to employ skill or technique. Now, the Phoenician style is built around the concept that the perfect duelist does not simply await opportunities, but subtly creates them. And while he achieves this in many ways, I will be focusing on the main three. The first, and perhaps foremost, is that Fulgrim will leave false openings for the duration of a fight. For example, intentionally bringing his blade back to guard lower than he should off of certain types of attacks, with the intent that a skilled opponent will notice the flaw and eventually try to take advantage of it. A situation that allows the seemingly oblivious Fulgrim to lure his foes into a trap. The next is footwork. The Phoenician has always been one of the lithest Primarchs, and gleefully uses his superior speed and footwork to direct the terms of how any fight is engaged, be it by taking advantage of his environment, or more frequently, simply dictating the angles a fight takes place in. To give a very basic idea of what I mean, were he to continuously circle to his left, Fulgrim's opponent would be forced to attack and defend primarily on their own right side, creating a vastly different dynamic than were he to approach head-on. Of course, the Primarch uses far more fluid and complex footwork patterns than that. It's just a simple example. The third major way Fulgrim controls his opponents is paradoxically simple, yet elaborate. He stabs at their faces. A thrust at eye level is a weird thing to defend, as the tip of the blade hides the rest of the blade, meaning defending such an attack is a little less intuitive than defending most attacks. Fulgrim moves behind these thrusts, changing the angles and dynamic of the fight to suit him. It's very difficult to dodge a head strike and keep looking at your opponent, and it's almost impossible to block one without creating blind spots within your own vision. For someone as fast as Fulgrim, the openings this can create are enormous. Getting a little meta, Fulgrim knows his enemy will know he is trying to do this, meaning he can use their own expectations against them to maneuver a foe, as they can't simply allow Fulgrim to take advantage of the blind spots he is creating. Fulgrim favors the use of a long single-handed blade, allowing him to fence or fight in a more rugged manner should the situation call for it. Historically, he wielded Fireblade, a stupidly named but powerful sword made for him by his beloved brother Primarch. But by this point, he had mostly eschewed its use, in favor of the demon-inhabited Sword of the Lair, a masterful weapon Fulgrim had seized from an alien temple. As is the nature of demonic weapons, it heightened his already inhuman speed and strength, though such boons are never free. Strangely, the majority of this duel, however, was fought with neither sword. The Phoenician's opponent, Ferrus Manus, was very unusual and difficult to analyze. He has the look and the vibe of someone who marches forward at an even, implacable pace, comparable to, say, Mortarion, but it's just not how he fights. Initially, yes, Ferrus stalks forwards more or less directly at his foe, but upon getting into range, the Primarch of the Iron Hands blitzes forward behind a tight high guard, ideally drawing a counter-strike he can deflect on the way into range, where he will unload with a series of powerful attacks. If possible, Ferrus will duck slightly to the side of his foe at the start or end of his rush, moving his head behind his guard to not present a simple target. If he can do this and create an angle as he blitzes, his enemy will have a harder time targeting him, or be forced to create an opening for Ferrus as they turn to face him. Should this fail, Ferrus is perfectly happy to crash into range and assault an enemy head on. Ferrus is heavily armored, and his defensive techniques are extremely sound. This, combined with his monumental strength and surprising speed over short distances, means a direct confrontation almost always favors the Primarch of the Iron Hands. This might sound like the strategy of a brute, but it requires a high level of skill, as none of it works if Ferrus doesn't maintain a tight guard and extremely clean techniques. Otherwise, he'd simply be rushing into damage, adding his own weight and momentum to the power of his foe's attacks. Usually, the Gorgon makes use of Forgebreaker, the mighty hammer made by Fulgrim upon their first meeting. This weapon, so huge even Astartes struggle to hold it aloft, serves Ferrus's style well, as it allows him to advance while guarding much of his body behind its haft. It also allows him to adjust his threat range based on grip, making it difficult to gauge what range he will begin his blitz at. Unslowed by its bulk in the Primarch's metal hands, the weapon offers the destructive power Ferrus so craves. Sadly for the Gorgon, at the time of this duel, he no longer possessed Forgebreaker. On the black sandy plains of Istvan V, Ferrus and Fulgrim would meet for the final time, in what would go down as one of the most infamous traps of all time. Desperate for vengeance, the Gorgon led the charge of Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard to engage Horus, his sons, and his allies. Confident in their reinforcements, the Loyalists assaulted the dug-in traitors, tragically unaware the legions en route were coming to aid the War Master, not destroy him. The battles were brief and brutal, as tens of thousands of Space Marines, led by their godlike fathers, unleashed apocalyptic levels of destruction upon each other, all across an area known as the Urgal Depression, where Horus had occupied an ancient alien fortress. Even as victory seemed certain, and his brothers wished to regroup, the enraged Ferrus pressed on, goaded by the sight of Fulgrim awaiting him in open challenge. Once, the Phoenician and the Gorgon had been the closest of friends. They bled, cheered, and cried together. They had travelled the scars, discussed the nature of perfection. The idea of facing each other in anger had once been inconceivable. But ever since Fulgrim's failed attempt to sway Ferrus to the traitorous cause, the Gorgon had thought of nothing else. And with the Primarch of the Emperor's children so close, he would not be denied. During their previous encounter, Fireblade had been destroyed, and Forgebreaker had been stolen. The Primarchs went into this final encounter strangely enough, bearing each other's signature weapon. At his hip, Ferrus wore the reforged Fireblade, and Fulgrim carried the enormous hammer across his back. For these two men, who had once been closer than brothers, it mattered that the weapons they had forged for each other centuries ago at their first meeting would be present at their last. Side note, Ferrus does not use a big wrench in this fight. Again, he uses a sword, not a big wrench. Both Primarch bodyguard forces parted, all knowing the brothers would want no interruption. Besides, they had each other to kill. The Terminator-clad Morlocks of the Iron Hands, driving into the glaive-wielding Phoenix Guard. As the Primarchs traded words, the battle around them changed. Another 4 legions of Astartes had arrived, and their landing forces filled the sky. The trap was closed. As the forces of Vulcan, Corax, and Ferrus were turned upon by the very warriors they thought had come to aid them, Ferrus could do nothing to save his sons, nothing to help his allies, nothing to escape. But there was one act he could achieve. He could slay the Phoenician. The 2 Primarchs met in a clash of energized weapons, lightning crackling from Forgebreaker, flames spewing from Fireblade. So familiar with each other, and perhaps even more so with the weapon the other one bore, both Primarchs struggled to employ the strategies they prefer in a duel, neither one letting the other's tricks go unpunished, and in moments both warriors were bloodied and bruised from numerous blows. The pair circled, advanced, retreated, feinted, and clashed together, constantly seeking to gain an edge, constantly failing to find it. Still, they left each other torn and blackened, their immaculate armor having survived hours of battle to be ripped apart in moments of furious conflict. In one of his blitz assaults, Ferrus cut through Fulgrim's shoulder guard, spinning and attempting to move off the center line to avoid a counterstrike. Ferrus continued his combo with a strike at the groin. However, using the size of Forgebreaker, Fulgrim deflected the strike, and with near-inhuman accuracy, landed a counter with the hammer's head to Ferrus's temple. However, Fulgrim made a near-fatal mistake. He got caught watching his work. This is when a fighter takes a brief moment to see what the effect of their attack is, rather than moving to the side or out of range. It's a trap that has cost many a skilled fighter over the years. So while he stumbled to one knee, the Primarch of the Iron Hands also happened to possess an iron head. Lashing out as he dropped, Ferrus managed to land a deep slash across Fulgrim's stomach. The Phoenician stumbled, the hammer dropping from his hands as they flew to his abdomen, and for a moment both Primarchs faced each other from their knees. As though the pain had lifted a haze from the Phoenician, he hesitated. This was all wrong. Why had he let himself be maneuvered into fighting his most beloved brother? The hesitation almost got him killed, as the Gorgon surged back to his feet, swinging a wide, long-range blow to hack Fulgrim's head from his shoulders. Without conscious thought, the Phoenician ripped his layer blade from its sheath, blocking the blow. Despite still being on his knees, Fulgrim had no issues matching Ferrus's great strength, the demonic blade filling the Phoenician with unnatural power. Surging to his feet, Fulgrim hurled his brother back and ran the layer blade through his chest. For the second time in under a minute, the Iron Hands Primarch found himself on his knees, the reforged fireblade slipping from his fingers. Staggering like a drunk, Fulgrim advanced, his mind whirling as he fought with himself and the demon within his blade. This was Ferrus Manus, his brother, his best friend for almost 300 years. Could he really kill him? The demon wanted him to. Part of himself wanted to. Ferrus gripped the hilt of Fireblade once more, and Fulgrim made his choice, lashing out with his sword. At the last moment he tried to change the blow, perhaps knock his brother out rather than kill him. But the layer blade would not be pulled, would not be turned, and Fulgrim landed as clean a shot as he'd ever thrown, decapitating Ferrus in a single blow. And thus fell the first Primarch to die. Well, first name Primarch, don't come at me about the Lost Legions. Do like and subscribe for more Warhammer fight analysis, and let me know in the comments what other fights you want me to look at. I'm just gonna go sit and cry about Ferrus Manus.